guess the first thing, there's a lot of valedictorians out there, and I guess just to sort of put everybody at ease, I was certainly not a valedictorian. And I was looking at the professors in the first couple of rows. I saw Professor Conkey down there, and I don't think I did too well in her class. I was looking, fortunately, I was an English major, and fortunately there's not too many of my English professors, Lou Renzer or Spengeman or Donald Pease or any of those guys around, because English wasn't my strength. And one of the things I really want to talk about today is I think grades are a marker for talent, and obviously everybody here has demonstrated a certain level of talent. But I think the key for you guys, and I think the opportunity that you have in college, is to actually figure out, well, what actually is my talent, and how can I use it a little bit better. And the reason I think that's so important is I think if you can figure out what your talent actually is, you're going to have a really great life. You're going to have a wonderful job, and or whatever it is, a hobby or whatever it is, however that thing that your talent, where your talent lies. If you can figure that out, work will never seem like work. So that's why I think it's important. The other reason I think it's important is if you can figure out what it is, you're going to have a big impact on the world as well. When you're doing things that you're suited for and you love and they fit with what you do, then all of a sudden I think the opportunity to have a bigger impact is there. So I think that's why it's important. Just to sort of break the ice and do something a little bit silly, one of the things that the soccer team do, I do it with my little 4-year-old soccer team, and the Dartmouth men's team probably do this too, is a little game, do this, do that. So just to make sure nobody's falling asleep yet. So I'm going to do something silly and I'll say do this, and when I say that, you have to do it. If I say do that, you don't do it. It's like Simon Says. Yeah. Okay, and I'm watching. Even the people right up at the back there, I'm watching you, okay? Yeah. So here we go. Do this. Do this. Do this. Do that. Pretty good, actually. I don't think we need... My dad won't be happy. He's the master at getting people to do that. So I need to work on that piece. But back to talent. Hopefully everybody is awake up at the back now. Back to talent. I think the hard part about talent is trying to figure out what exactly your talent is, and it certainly has taken me a long time. One of the things, as I was thinking about this speech and trying to get ready for it, I was thinking, what are the ways that you can find out what it is that you're suited for in life? And I think one of the best things you can do is to look back and to try and find the things that you found yourself doing. If you think back on high school, what were the activities that didn't seem like work? Or what were the things that you found yourself signing up for? Or what were the classes that you went to that you just seemed to love and you were interested in reading out more and more about whatever topic it was? So one of the things I would encourage you guys to do is to stop and to think a little bit about what have those activities been for you guys, and to really encourage you to pay attention to what you've done in the past. I think the best way to plan for the future is sometimes to think to the past. And I actually didn't take my own advice, and I've done lots of different things, and I've sort of stumbled into the position that I'm in today. But if I think back on my life, I can think of a couple of stories which I find funny. I don't know if you will, but I chuckle as I think of them in my head, of situations, as I was a kid and growing up, where I started things. And it seems like when I look at my life, one of the things I've always done is start things. And so one of the first things I started, I'd moved to a new town. I was 10 years old, and there was really no organized soccer in Scotland for kids. You had to be about 12 years old before there was any organized soccer. So the kids, we made up our own teams. And I arrived in this new town, and there was already a set of teams there. And I could have joined one of the teams, but I decided I would make my own team. And the name of my team was Clark's Cannonballers. And the Cannonballers was a reference to how hard we might shoot the ball or something like that. And the sort of the leader of the kids around was a kid, Alan Brand, and he was sort of one of those kids. He smoked at age 11. He had He had ginger hair, he had big black boots, and he would tie the laces all the way up, and he was quite an intimidating guy. And his team was called Brand's Bombers. And Brand's Bombers were so good and so dominant in our neighborhood that they chipped in and bought themselves a trophy because they would win it. So the thing that I did, and this was, I think, one of my earliest executive decisions, was I found the best player in the neighborhood. His name was Scott Taylor, and his nickname was Pelé, although in Scotland we called it Pelly. And Scott was the best player around. So Scott was on my team, and we built our team up, and we had our playbook and whatever we had. And finally, we actually beat Brand's Bombers in the final. And it was a very exciting day. Alan Brand, he didn't beat us up. He actually let us take the trophy home for 24 hours. And I still have a photo outside my house with the trophy. So that was one example, I think, of a story. Another one, which I'll tell briefly, was I moved to Hanover High School as a sophomore. And one of the things, there was a Hanover High School math team that was it was the math team. I think it had fallen on hard times, and there was about 4 kids on the math team. And I, for whatever reason, decided that I wanted to be on the math team, but I wanted the math team to be really exciting and great. And so I managed to convince one of my teachers, I think at Dartmouth 71, Stanley Crane, to give us extra credit if we joined the math team. So straight away, I'd incentivize the potential employees or workforce. The next thing I did was I rebranded the club, and we changed from being the Hanover High School math team to the Hanover High School math squad. A subtle change, and we came up with a tagline and a little logo. And it was absolute value bars, and then with a radical sign in the middle. That was our logo, and the tagline followed from there. So those are silly examples, and in some ways I kind of like the fact that they're such silly examples because they're very easy to overlook. Something as silly as those 2 stories, but I think when I look back, if I'd looked back carefully, I think I would have found that those were what I ended up doing now is very, very similar. In some ways to starting those clubs, I guess. So I think that's one thing, and I guess the point for you guys is to really pay attention to the things that you find yourself drawn to, and the things that you find yourself doing, even if they seem very small and insignificant things. Pay attention. The other thing, and this one sounds like a bit of a cliche, but is really to listen to the voice within. It sounds so cliched, but I think it's really, really true. For me, that was the voice that I had that sort of went around and around and around was to try and use soccer to fight HIV. And to give just a little bit of context, I'd lived in Zimbabwe as a kid. I'd gone back after my Dartmouth education, and I played soccer and I taught. And the time I was in the decade, in the 90s, what happened in Zimbabwe was the life expectancy had gone from 69 to 35. At the same time, the HIV prevalence had doubled from around 12% to around 26%. Pretty terrible catastrophe. For me, that was very personal, as people I knew had died of AIDS. At the same time in Uganda, HIV prevalence went from 12% down to 4 or 5%. And really about 1 million lives were estimated being saved. And the things, when they looked at Uganda and they tried to figure out what happened in Uganda in the 90s and how was that different from what happened in Zimbabwe and Botswana, South Africa, and all the other countries in Southern Africa, the one thing they found was that in Uganda there was really high-level political leadership, and that President Museveni stood up and spoke out very loudly that HIV was a problem. The other thing they found was that the people on the ground were really energized and mobilized and doing very, very simple things, nothing complicated, nothing fancy, but that people identified this as a problem and took action. And so in my thinking, the opportunity that we had with soccer in Africa and HIV was that we had a lot of the biggest name stars were people that I knew and certainly had access to. And I thought maybe we couldn't get President Mugabe or other political figures on our side, but we certainly could get the soccer players on our side. So I thought that was one thing. The other thing was kids love to play soccer, and whenever you have a soccer ball or anything else, the kids show up. And so I thought this was a great way to really attract and use the game itself and the stars to really to bring people together. I won't go into too much detail about the organization. I guess we started, the idea was, coming back to the point about listening to that voice, the idea went around and around in my head for a long time before I actually did anything. So I guess I would encourage you, don't despair. If you're, as long as you continue to listen to that voice and commit to taking action at some point. I wasn't sure how to take action. And I finally had some friends that were excited. I had a residency director who had no idea how to do what I needed to do, but he was very excited about it and essentially was the enabling person. And I guess at this point we have a pretty big organization. We have about 50 employees. As Tom mentioned, we have about over 200,000 kids have gone through the program. It's been very exciting. So the take-home point, listen to that voice. Tying, I guess what I'm doing now, back into my Dartmouth days and trying to think about a Dartmouth message for you guys. At the time when you're at Dartmouth, sometimes I think you don't appreciate Dartmouth sometimes until you've left. And you'll find that especially when you go home for Christmas break, you'll be excited to come back. When you go away on an off term, you'll be excited to come back. And I think the thing that makes it exciting are the relationships that you build with the people that are here. And really for me, the Dartmouth grassroots soccer has really been a microcosm of the greater Dartmouth community for me. The number of people in this room that have been so helpful and instrumental for me and for the organization doing what it's done. I can't overstate that. From Jim Wright really being just someone who's been so open and enthusiastic and has shown up and talked at things, to Jeff Cook, the men's soccer coach, all the way down, the staff, board members. There's probably been 25 people sort of very, very heavily involved in grassroots soccer from the Dartmouth community. So I think as you're thinking about your Dartmouth, your time here, it's really the relationships and the people that you're going to meet that'll make it special. I guess I'd like to finish up now. At the beginning of the grassroots soccer program, all of the kids show up, and we have them sign a contract. And the contract, it says two things on it. It says respect and participation. And so I think those are two good things. This is very similar to the first day at a grassroots soccer program. The setting's a little bit different. The number of people present is a little bit different, but in many ways it's very similar. And so I would encourage you to think about those two things: respect, participation. And when you think of respecting each other, I think respecting I was a groundskeeper at Dartmouth for I guess 6 months in total, and I loved it. And I think respect for the groundskeepers, not walking across the keep off the grass signs. So I'll be watching you guys for that too. Respect for the people in the dining services, all the people that are helping out, for your professors, and especially for each other. So I think respect is a really, really important thing. And I think participation is really the call to action, to not sit, to really be engaged in what you're doing. I don't know how many times around, you have at life, but I know you've certainly got this one time, and really to put everything you can into it, and to not worry about, making a fool of yourself a little bit, or to taking a risk or taking a chance, but really to get out there and participate fully in the experience. So those are the two things. Just to finish it off, what we do at grassroots soccer, we do something called a kilo. And I think we could do today perhaps the biggest kilo of all time, and certainly the greenest kilo of all time. And this is how it'll work. Once it's over, my speech is done. I will shout kilo, and you guys are going to go clap, 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 and you're going to go woo. And that sort of symbol, it's a little silly, kind of brings the group together, and sort of we commit together, respect, participation, and kind of not being too afraid of making a fool of ourselves. So you're ready? So I'll go kilo, you guys are going to go clap, 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 woo, and we're done. That's it. And if it doesn't go well, we'll have to do it again. So one time, here we go. You ready? Kilo.